Recently, I've come to the realization that I have become the worst kind of player in League of Legends. I'm hard stuck D4, I trash talk the enemy when I win, and I blame my teammates when I lose. I've become the exact kind of player I preached against never turning into when I first started my YouTube channel. So lately, I've been trying to take some steps towards fixing that, becoming a less whiny player, less whiny person, and making sure that I understand why I've turned into the toxic kind of kid that's completely unreformed. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole spiel about how being toxic is bad and you should focus on your own play and ignore your teammates and yada yada yada. I've literally made over 100 videos saying that exact same thing over and over. So instead, I want to talk to you guys about what happens to make players like myself, who know they should be focusing on themselves, still end up blaming their teammates. And to summarize that reason in a phrase, it's hitting your wall. For me, it was making a run at trying to get out of low diamond and having a lot of issues doing so. At this point in climbing and raiding, my strategy was simply to win every lane, and in theory, if I play enough games, I'll just win more than I lose over time. If I'm winning every single laning phase through either kills or CS, then while I will lose some games if I get really bad teammates that lose both of their lanes and cause us to lose the game, most of the time I should get teammates that either go even or only one lane loses or something, and those are games that I can carry. However, there was a bit of a problem. I would win my lanes a lot of the time, but always end up losing the game still somehow. I mean, I was hitting 500, win-loss, and I had no idea why I was losing like 50% of the games I still won lane in. In my head, I immediately started putting blame on my teammates, since I was working so hard to stomp my lane every game, but they would just end up losing just as hard as I was winning before I had any sort of opportunity to TP gank or roam or help them out or something. I'd get super mad actually because of it all. It's not my job to win their lane for them. I can't last hit for them, and I can't really do too much if they give up first blood at level 3. You can see how my mindset devolved here. I'm not considering what I'm doing anymore. I'm just completely focused on my teammates. I'm thinking that this game is going to be decided by who gets the less sucky bot lane and expecting a loss every time I see my bot give up an early double kill. All of my focus is now on my teammates, and I'm just autopiloting my own gameplay. At the end of the day though, my frustration and the reason that I, of all people, Mr. Don't Flame Your Teammates, that kind of guy, ended up doing exactly that, flaming his teammates, this frustration was coming from not understanding what I was doing wrong. And I think that's the crux of every player who whines about teams in League of Legends. If you don't understand what you're doing wrong and you think that you're actually doing everything you possibly can to win a game for your team, then of course the only other possible option for why you lose certain games is going to be your teammates. Normally this is the sort of thing that bronze, silver, and gold players get made fun of. If you hear a bronze or silver player say that they played a game perfectly and they had nothing that they could do to carry a bad team, like, people are going to laugh in their face for that because their mistakes are so obvious to people outside of those ratings that, I mean, they're missing some pretty basic skills that aren't even really strategy to the game. But I would argue this is something that really gets difficult to deal with the higher and higher rated you get, because the higher and higher you get in rating, the better and better you actually are. Make fun of me for being Diamond 4 all you want, but Diamond 4 is still the top 0.7% of players out there. Objectively speaking, that's a good rating, so I can think of myself as a good player, or better than average at the very least. But by doing so, I can then easily shift blame towards my teammates, thinking that I actually did play a game perfectly, because even if I did make mistakes here and there, they were so small and subtle that I can't easily see them. There weren't any glaring errors in a game the way you would see if I was watching a bronze match. It wasn't until I got coached that I started seeing a lot of the little mistakes that I had in my mid and late game in particular that really added up and made a huge difference. Mistakes in how I split push and how I manage minion waves, hell, even just mistakes in when to group and when to split overall. These mistakes are quote unquote lesser mistakes than going 0-5-0, but I can't afford to be making them if I'm the one doing super well and need to be the carry. Let me give you an example. This is a match that I played recently where I won lane super hard. I got an early double kill on an absolutely terrible dive. I used this early advantage to press a massive CS lead over Darius. I solo killed Darius multiple times throughout this game and go 5-1 early on with a really huge lead, shutting Darius down about as hard as I possibly can. However, we end up losing this game. At first, I don't understand why, and it feels like I played this perfectly, about as well as I could. I did my best to make sure this Darius was as useless as possible, and I tried to show up to every team fight that I possibly could, and started flaming my teammates for a little bit for playing so poorly. I felt like it was their fault that we lost since I played much better than the average top laner would in laning phase in this rating, and I did everything I could to carry the team and had to be their fault. But after some thought, I realized I made plenty of mistakes myself throughout this game. I actually gave up first blood on a very stupid tower dive that I just flubbed the technical aspect of and didn't end up punishing with another double kill, and this ended up giving Jarvan first blood and an early lead, who then started terrorizing the rest of my lanes. That could have very well not happened if I just didn't give up this dumb first blood. On top of that, I had huge portions of the game where I was doing absolutely nothing, no farming, no pushing, just being AFK, standing somewhere kind of near my team in case maybe they got into a fight and maybe they needed me right there or something. This huge indecisiveness gave Darius a window of opportunity to catch back up and farm, allowing him to be kind of somewhat useful in team fights later on. On top of this, I had a few god-awful teleports that I just played so badly here, and more time being indecisive, doing nothing. It was pretty easy for me to get frustrated and flame the team at first when I saw my score compared to theirs and just how hard they were feeding before I felt like I could even help them. But at the end of the day, when I saw my own mistakes, I just stopped flaming entirely. I focused only on myself, because how the hell am I going to blame anybody for anything they did wrong if I'm making mistakes as blatant and terrible as this? It was my job to carry this game, and I failed horribly at that. I can't blame Kassadin for a losing lane when I made mistakes that were just as bad or worse. Now let's look at a counter example. This is a game that I played earlier today, where I'm playing Aurelia versus Jace top lane, and I have a similarly good start. I solo kill him over and over, I end up going 7-0 by 17 minutes, and I also get a decently large CS lead on top of it, where I rotate around for some towers in the start of the mid game, and I'm playing decently well. My team, however, is not. They are feeding the two carries, Cassiopeia and Vayne, hard scaling late game champions to a point where I don't even realize how fed they are, and I end up baiting my team into getting double killed. Instead of flaming my teammates though, I'm a little bit too busy focused on myself. In particular, how the hell am I letting that Jace catch up? I'm beating myself over the head right now for the fact that this Jace is 2-5-2 when he should be 0-5-0. The fact that my CS lead is only 50 is pathetic. I mean, as well as the fact that I just gave up a huge amount of bounty gold by getting killed to the Vayne. It's all disgusting. So what do? I don't flame and instead focus on carrying harder myself. I feel really bad about the poor CS I have, only 200 at 26 minutes. I try and make sure my teammates never fight without me, always showing up to team fights in one way or another, as well as playing very patiently, waiting for good initiations to shut down either Vayne or Cassiopeia in these fights. And you know what happens? We end up carrying and win the game. This could have been 100% a guaranteed loss if I ever lost my cool, but I keep a level head and shot call properly, going 19-3-5, and despite my team losing both other lanes and feeding both of their hard-scaling hyper-carry late-game champions, I managed to carry. In both of these matches, I had almost identical starts for the first 15 minutes. The only difference, or big difference, was that one stupid death in the Darius match, but other than that, I played these lanes almost identically. In the mid-game as well, I had just as many mistakes, where both of these matches I had issues giving up kills and messing up transitioning my lead to being as effective as possible. However, the difference here was I looked for and saw what I was doing wrong in that second game, and by doing so, I had no right and no desire to flame my teammates for their own performance, and I was able to salvage the game despite my mistakes and outcarry the enemy, whereas in the first game, I couldn't. I was way too busy typing, yelling at my team. This is the sort of thought process I think you have to have. If you're doing well, it's your job to carry, and if you don't, then it's your fault. Most players know this at heart, but sometimes they have trouble seeing their mistakes, and that's when the flame comes out. I think that's the key to not getting tilted and making sure you don't blame teams. If you understand why you're losing and where your mistakes are, it's actually really easy. All of that blame and frustration just goes right on yourself where it should be. This might sound a little repetitive, you know, like I'm giving you all this advice I already gave you years ago about not flaming your team and all that, but I think while we all know that you shouldn't flame your team and it doesn't do anything good, we don't always 100% understand how to not flame your team, or how and why you can't possibly stop feeling like it's their fault when you go 7-1 and lose a game. The why is, I feel like it's their fault because I don't see how it could be my own, but once you see where your mistakes lie and how it's still your fault you're not carrying, it's so much easier to stay focused and carry a match. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed watching today's video. This was a little bit of more in the vein of those old videos I used to make about how to get better at League and carry games and all that jazz. I hope you still enjoyed it, even if it is a bit of a departure from our regular content, but either way, I'll see you all tomorrow in a new video, but until then, thank you very much for watching, good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.